Codebreakers have been working away over the past few days to solve a puzzle related to Clovis Bray lore and Beyond Light. It appears now that enough of the puzzle has been solved to reveal the prize, the missing lore pages from Clovis Bray's journal, which describe just how much of a maniac he is, and we've also got a teaser for the upcoming raid in the Deep Stone Crypt. Everything ties together really nicely, setting the context for Beyond Light. So the following is an update to the ARG puzzle and a look at the missing Clovis Bray Journal pages in Destiny 2. And don't forget, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. Before we get into the detail of what has been discovered, let's do a short recap of what's been happening over the past week or so. And this has all been happening outside the game in lore books, found in the Collector's Edition, which led to an ARG puzzle, which in turn has led to some missing lore pages from that journal. I went over the initial lore pages the other day, and you can get a full recap of that here. But the journal essentially details Clovis Bray's journey to Europa to find the secret to immortality. And related to the lore found in these journal pages, Bungie dropped a teaser for the Deep Stone Crypt raid on Twitter, and before we get into it, I'll play that full video here. So Clovis has a disease which is slowly killing him, and he has this fantasy of seeding the entire future of the human race. He sets up a base on Europa, keeping himself alive with organs grown in a lab, and then transplanting them to himself. During an accident, he died for a few minutes where he had a vision where he spoke to the darkness, which he refers to as clarity, and Clovis had been trying to complete the Exo project, which is the safe transfer of human minds into Exos. However, all of them ended up going mad and ripping themselves apart. He even experimented on his own children. He calls on his granddaughter Elizabeth Bray to join him on Europa, although she's reluctant as Clovis killed her father in an experiment to transfer his mind to an Exo. Elsie eventually agrees to come along, and Clovis has since been instructed to build a gate with Vex technology. Stepping through that gate, they potentially discover the Vex homeworld. Clovis also discovered that the combination of Vex fluid and clarity was the stabilizing element needed for the Exo project to succeed. And in the final lore entry of the previous journal was a letter to his grandchildren saying he's done it and he'd found the secret to immortality. So these lore entries were found in the Collector's Edition of Beyond Light, and also contained within the Collector's Edition was a small shard of darkness. So it looks like a pyramid, but it lit up with LEDs. And this led the community to a URL on the Bungie website and a code called Choose. So if you redeemed an item found within the Collector's Edition and entered the code Choose on the website, whilst you signed in, then you got an animated GIF. So this is when the Destiny community kicked into gear with solving the new alternate reality game. So contained within the animated GIFs was data, and if you open the GIF in a code editor, then sequences and coordinates were found. Loads of fantastic effort has been put in by the great folks over at Raid Secrets, so I definitely recommend you go over there, and I'll stick a link to that down below in the description. For me, puzzles like this and the Corridors of Time are some of the most fun times in the world of Destiny, and it couldn't be done without a huge effort from the community coming together to solve this huge puzzle. So that brings us up to speed with the last few days. Slowly the lore pages started to be revealed, and within, there's some shocking new details about Clovis Bray. All of this appears to be pointing towards clues for the raid, which is going to be held in the Deep Stone Crypt. We had clues before about how crazy Clovis Bray was, killing his son through experiments, thinking he was the chosen one and a man to spawn an entire new human race across the solar system, and a desire to wipe out entire races like the Vex on a whim. So these newly discovered pages start with Clovis finding ways to stop the Exos going mad by giving them a combination of human traits, like eating, drinking, sleeping and dreaming, but also wiping their memory. Wiping helps them become more resilient to the breakdowns. Clovis had also discovered that the Vex followed them back from the portal and the 2082 Volantis to Europa. A paranoid Clovis starts to suspect members of his own team as Vex infiltrators. He suspects Sundaresh is not who she seems. Although a leading scientist with Clovis Bray, he cannot recall ever hiring her or finding work that she's done. Clovis also notices that something is speaking to all the Exos. Buried in the ingredients of the Exos is a mixture of darkness and Vex technology, and Clovis believes they're all being influenced by something. Only a small piece of data is being given to them individually, but he can hear them all collectively. Elsie comes to Clovis to berate him, but ultimately asks to be transferred into an Exo body to help fight the Vex. Although this is Clovis' side of the story, so I would take it with a pinch of salt. This was the opportunity that Clovis Bray had been looking for. Clovis successfully transfers Elizabeth's mind into the Exo body, but the process kills her. Clovis tests his Exo mechanism on his own granddaughter, and by all accounts, it's a success. However, Clovis himself is deteriorating, and he prepares more replacement organs for himself, and prepares to go under the operating table again. He still wants to observe Elsie for a little while longer before he fully commits to transferring his mind into an Exo, the absolute coward. However, during the next procedure to replace his organs, disaster strikes as he's woken up mid-operation. And at this point, let's check out that lore entry in detail. I died on the operating table. Not unexpected. But when I woke, I was still on the table, my body still open. It was almost perfectly dark. I perceived that I was surrounded by medical frames, all frozen mid-movement, their cutting and suction instruments whining at standby. I could only see because of the light from a single red eye. The operation had gone terribly wrong. Above the life support collar on my neck, I was completely intact. Below that meridian, I had been separated into distinct braids of tangled flesh. My nerves made up one braid and my circulatory system another. My lymph nodes, my muscles, my naked bones, the glistening hulls of my extracellular matrix abandoned on the table like a leftover turkey after Thanksgiving dinner. I'd been picked clean. My head was the source of Glory River Delta. Yet all the organs were still working. I was alive, in disassembly. Clarity? I asked the darkness. I had no breath to speak, but I could still transmit with my sensorium. Is that you? No, the voice said behind the red eye. It's me. Sundaresh. Her voice was thoughtful, remote, and keenly terrific, like the noise of an angle grinder held to my skull. Something like this happened to me. I was an explorer, once, one of hundreds of myself. And then I fell into a trap, I think, and they drew me out of it with a hook and turned me inside out to see how I worked, and then they made billions of me. All of us shouting at each other, shouting for Chioma, screaming for Mother. They were looking for the right one, and when they found me, they killed all the others. I knew I was different, because the quiet made me happy. I was glad to be alone. Vex, I screamed at her. You're a Vex. You're not real, and you can't hurt me. Can't I? She grasped my spinal cord. A frame shadowed her motions, lifting the cord like a snake. Of course I'm not a Vex. Is there a Vex? Is Vex something you can be, rather something you can do? I don't know. I don't know why they sent me here. I don't know if they do either. They just do things. Why do you think I'm here, Clovis? To kill me, I whispered. Without a heartbeat to a waver, without lungs to seize and choke, I could even feel fear. I discovered that I could. You're an assassin. No, Sundaresh whispered. The red eye throbbed in time with her voice. The Vex don't act so directly. They didn't know what you found here, but I discovered your secret. Clarity control. And once I tell them, they'll come for it. The red light made my blood on the surgical instruments appear black. I tried to signal Elizabeth. I think in my panic, I even called her Elsie. Sundaresh closed her fist around my spine, one thumbnail dug into a disc, probing for the nerve beneath. It felt like nothing I have ever... At that moment, Elsie comes back, now in a superior exo form, and saves her grandfather from Sundaresh, and he somehow survives and recovers, although definitely tormented by his dissection. Clovis continues to hide clarity control from Elsie Bray, as he's worried that she's likely to destroy the whole operation. And we discover that Elsie's memories from her original transfer are stored on file somewhere, which are going to likely come back in the game at some point. The Vex infestation and infection has grown and it's become Elsie's obsession, and she's been testing patients affected by the Vex infection. Her questions to Clovis appear to have dampened, however Clovis makes a mistake in conversation. He mentions the dreams that all the Exos have, of a tower and the dead, and Elsie bursts into anger with this new information that Clovis has been hiding from her and wonders what else he's been hiding. And her mind is made up. This process must be destroyed. Clovis pleads with Elsie not to do it. Then it appears as if Clovis kills Elsie, although he justifies it to himself by saying it wasn't Elsie, that it was a twisted version of her. Again here, he's showing us his maniacal side, with delusions and justifying non-truths to himself. But before he killed her, it appears as if she managed to attempt to destroy his work. Clovis continues to lose his mind. Elsie plans to wipe out the Vex, which would ultimately lead to the failure of the Deep Stone Crypt and the Exo project. And Clovis has got delusions of grandeur and refers to himself as a god. He's not the only one who doesn't want the Deep Stone Crypt shut down either. The Vex are after his experiments too. And then a sudden behaviour changes in the Vex, and this is where the lore potentially points to a raid and something coming. And I think that something might be us. With this warning of an attack, Clovis revives Elsie once again, and now confident of his exo-human mind transfer, he's ready to do it himself and rid himself of his failing body. He's on the cusp of pressing the button and he says, "All I need to do is strike the key, and the scanner will sedate me. Flush me with the poisons of immortality and rip a perfect image from my mind from the quantum information encoded in the atoms of my brain." Whether such a high-resolution scan is necessary, it's doubtful that any element of the mind is truly quantum, is beside the point. I insist on the best. The vials of imaging binders smell like sweet metal. This vindicates my work. This proves that I was right to continue. All the doubters, all those defeatists, all those whining myopic who bleated, "You have had enough, Clovis, why must you ask the world for more?" And now I will have more. I have thousands of exobodies here and thousands of connectomes in my library. I will raise an army. I will meet this invasion of vermin and turn it back. And then I will strip their senile grey star for parts and put an end to all mortality. I will forget nothing. One copy of my mind will go to an exo, yes, but a second copy will be installed in the Deep Stone site. He will guide me to my destiny. The gods of might and knowledge will welcome me to their table. I will be the Luca, the beginning and the source of the way, and the foundation of the long road. So Clovis, he's finally done it. He's taken the plunge and transferred his mind to an exo body, and in doing so, gone completely mad and sending a version of himself to defend the Deep Stone Crypt. No doubt from us when we storm the place for the coming raid in Beyond Light. And then the narrative takes a twist as we appear to see an exo Clovis speaking to the human husk that he's left behind. "You meagre, squirming thing. You never understood clarity. You never will. You are bound to this husk even as I shed it. You will die in its poison wreckage while I attain the perfect eternity of an angel. You will be the residue of my transubstantiation, something left in the workings of a coffee pot, some greasy sin. I had the strength to kill my own granddaughter, and I will certainly have no trouble killing you. Oh, it hurts on the surface, but inside there is no pain." So super interesting stuff there, and I'm really liking the lore we're getting from Beyond Light so far. Clovis Bray, the birth of the Exos, Elizabeth Bray's transformation from human to Exo, and the involvement of the Vex and the Darkness. Feels like this is all building to the raid and a likely encounter with Clovis Bray at some point. One question that I have is what's going to happen after the raid. Will this be a one and done raid, or will this open up something else in the game, much like we saw with Forsaken and The Last Wish? I'd love to see that, but I think expectations should be set at the appropriate level, given the limited resources Bungie have compared to the Forsaken times. But we can still dream though, right? Well, let me know what you think of the Clovis Bray missing journal pages and the update to the ARG puzzle, and thank you so much for watching. For more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVGpodcast. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out these other videos on the channel. Thanks again, I'll see you in the next video.